Sunday, March 9, 2014, 9:05 a.m. I said 8:30 a.m. for a good reason. I know how long these things take. You start out with what seems a simple task. Record a 3-minute song. What's so hard about that? With a song like Yoda, you've only got drums, bass, rhythm guitar, lead vocals, the main backup vocal, and maybe some extra backup vocals. That's a total of only 7 or so separate tracks. 21 minutes of recording time, assuming you record each track separately. If you need 3 takes for each track, that gives you just over an hour. Triple that to take into account setup and some inevitable fart-arsing around, and you've got 3 hours, tops. Should be easy, right? But bands routinely spend a month getting such a 3-minute song recorded and mixed. Why? God knows. When Frank was studying his sound engineering course, I used to go into professional studios with him so that he could rack up the necessary hours, recording music for different bands. 50 hours could comfortably pass by without any finished product in sight. So imagine how pissed off I am that a band I'm trying to help, who want me to record a whole EP for them in 2 days, haven't bothered to show. This leaves me sitting listlessly at my breakfast nook, pondering the events of the last 2 days. I'm feeling the inside of my cheek with my tongue. The cut has turned into a mouth ulcer that just won't go away. I hate that. It makes me think of D1. He's like a sore that won't go away. Ditto Ian McRae. Right now I'm remembering my last interaction with the latter. The one thing I'm finding hard to get is this. Why did he come in to see me? What was with all the indirect insults and veiled threats? What did I ever do to him? More importantly, I'm wondering why he felt the need to tell me about Justine's secret. Of course, he's probably only too aware that I'm attracted to her. I mean, if it's obvious to everyone, why not to Ian? Telling me about her sordid past, assuming it to be the truth, is one way of dampening my enthusiasm. But why would he want to? Surely he doesn't see me as some sort of threat. For all he knows, we haven't even hung out, other than 1 gig where I barely spoke to her and 1 lunch. By the way, I'm beginning to see that Jennifer Caldwell can't be trusted. In the end, I have a fairly good idea that it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with Ian being a bastard towards Justine. Given Justine's sudden refusal to speak with me, I'm fairly certain that Ian has told her about our conversation and done so as a kind of warning. Here's a taste of things to come if you so much as think of trying to fight me. I suspect his disciplining of Silvio was another prong in his attack. Even if I can't attack you directly, I'll target your friends and loved ones. Perhaps this is what he was doing to me as well, assuming he knew that Justine considered me a friend. To my eye, it looks awfully like the German reprisals for resistance in the Balkans during World War II. 10 civilians executed for every German soldier killed. Of course, Ian is also being vicious to Silvio and me simply for the sake of being vicious. He enjoys it. It's an expression of power and control. This whole dynamic is exacerbated because Silvio and I have seen far more of his nasty side than he would have liked. Presumably he's been acting this way towards Justine for some time, but always in private. In public he wants to be seen as charming, polite, accommodating, a debonair gentleman. Unfortunately, this time around there were witnesses, and in Ian's mind, I'm sure this has necessitated a kind of damage control, under which we, the witnesses and the victim, are to be isolated from each other. If I'm right, so far he's succeeded in his objectives. What the hell do I know anyway? 9:14 a.m. I'm startled out of my daydreaming by the doorbell. Bugsy panics and darts off to the staircase, where he pauses, then disappears, up and out of view. I look through the peephole to see what looks like a cover of a late 60s album. A psychedelic fisheye view of 4 cool young men slouching uniformly, but facing different directions. I open the door to be greeted with arm-wrestle handshakes. "Hi, dude," says Czar. "Hi, boss," says Silvio. "Or should I say former boss?" He smiles ruefully and I pat him on the shoulder. "Come in, guys." They walk in carrying their instruments. We've got some more gear in the car, amps and shit, says Seb. He's one of those guys who wears a perpetual bronze stubble on his face, but somehow still ends up looking neat. I have a private theory that you can only get away with that while you're in your 20s. After that you start looking like a hobo, or Robert Downey Jr. on drugs. He's clean now, and boy, can he sing. I saw him in a YouTube clip with Sting, and he just rocked. Bart gives me a wink as he and Seb go back to the car. Silvio has already brought in the kick drum, and I help him with it to the basement. It won't be easy negotiating the narrow passage. "Hey, Silvio," I say as we're walking, me backwards, down the staircase. "I heard what happened. I'm sorry about that, dude." "Can't be helped." I don't know if quitting is the right answer. It seems a bit hasty. "No, believe me, I had to do it. I've seen Ian in action before. This is how it goes. He talks about people who have a bright future versus those who are on the way out. I was on the way out. And when you're in that category, you can't recover. All you can look forward to is more humiliation. Ian always finds a way. He always wins." "He's an absolute bastard, isn't he?" "You got that right. Anyway, you're going to help us make it big, aren't you, Dan?" As we lower the kick drum in the center of the room, I look at Silvio, but I can't gauge his expression at all. Whether he's joking or not, my answer is actually sincere. "One thing's for sure, my friend. We're going to give it one hell of a shot." 11:24 a.m. We finally managed to record a guide track, one with the whole band playing in the right key. Now we're going to have a bit of a break and come back to record the tracks separately, starting with the drums first, then the bass, then the rhythm guitar. After that, I think we'll do the lead vocals. Since Bart is singing as a main backup vocalist in a tight 2-part harmony, we'll record that next. Only then will we do the lead guitar. Zar has some idea of dueling solos, mimicking a lightsaber battle, which should be fun. He's going to play against Seb. After that, we'll drop in Bart, Seb and Zar in a 3-part harmony singing Yoda for part of the chorus and during the fade-out. Then there's the mixing and then the mastering, but I can do all that on my own. Zar, Seb and Bart have all gone outside to have a smoke. Silvio and I have stayed in the studio, where I'm showing my protege some mixing tips using the guide track which we've recorded with various microphones. See, you want to keep the lead vocals dead center, ditto with the bass. The lead guitar can be panned to one side slightly if you like. It all depends on the mix and whether you have another lead instrument cutting in. Backing vocals I always pan, and if we're talking a 3-part harmony, I leave the main vocal center and pan the others hard left and hard right. We're playing the guide track through the overhead monitors. I've worked out how to switch them on now. Silvio asks, "So why don't we use this take and be done with it? It sounds pretty good to me." We've only used 4 mics, and there's a bleed from each one. If I knew more about it, mate, that is if I were a proper sound engineer, maybe I could record a whole band playing at once. But right now I have to go with what little I know. My uncle and I used to record each instrument separately. It's what they call overdubbing. It might not produce an organic sound, but it'll do for the demo. It'll be cleaner, sharper, and easier for me to manipulate. "So have you spoken to Juss?" asks Silvio abruptly. No, mate." "Why not?" "She doesn't want to talk to me. Zar says she's resolute. Apparently she thinks I'm going to get the same treatment as you did." "I think that's bull." "Pardon?" "There's no comparison, mate. Ian knows that Justine brought me into the firm. He knows jack shit about you and Juss, so I don't get why she's avoiding you, at all." "Yes, well." I breathe in deeply. "In that case, I don't know either." "I think you do." "What are you talking about, Silvio?" "Mate, it has to be something. Something you did or said." "Believe me, I haven't done or said anything." "Maybe that's the problem." He looks me in the eye. "Go back with Zar tonight. If it doesn't work out, he can always take you home again. Seriously, this shit has to stop." I want to tell Silvio that I'm on borrowed time as it is, that there is little point in even trying to repair what little we had by way of a developing relationship. But of course I can't. So what about it? Silvio asks. Just at that moment, Tsar, Seb and Bart are coming down the stairs. The guide track, newly mixed, is playing over the monitors. Hey, that's already sounding pretty good, exclaims Tsar. What do you reckon, Tsar? Take Dan here back to your place tonight. Leave him and just to sort things out. I reckon, he says simply. I can smell freshly burnt lungs as Tsar passes me. Guys, I don't want to be like Ian and turn up when I've been told not to. You haven't been told not to. Besides, you're not just turning up, you'll be my guest. I live there too, Tsar says. We can give Silvio a lift home, adds Bart. He and Seb came in one car. Apparently they live near each other in Footscray, which is nowhere near Craigieburn. I stand at the screen not knowing how to respond. What are you, some sort of coward? Asks Silvio. And with that I realise he's right. My little message, if it got through, doesn't cut it. I have to speak to Justine personally, if only to set things straight before my time here ends. Okay, I sigh. Now can we please get back to this recording, gents? Otherwise we'll never finish anything. 8:27 p.m. They're stopped in the driveway. Tsar has a Corolla station wagon that is the same year as my sedan. It's been a long day, but we've finished a recording. I've even done a rough mix, which has been playing on loop through Tsar's car stereo the whole drive. There's still a lot left to do, including some auto-tuning on Tsar's voice. I won't tell him. I also need to do some frequency attenuation on the tracks, in particular the one for the hi-hats. I used a Shure SM81 that Frank had in the studio, and that should have done the trick, but the hi-hats still don't sound bright enough, so I'm going to have to cut everything under 2K. Tsar waits for the track to finish before he turns off the engine. Tell you what, dude, I'm so happy you've got my car back. It was at the repairs for the last 2 weeks. He jumps out. Justice had to drive me everywhere. You coming? Tsar is standing outside with door open, silhouetted against the porch light. Yes, sure. Something makes me think this isn't going to be easy. I keep remembering that slap Justine gave Ian. But I've bitten off the piece of turd, and now I might as well swallow it. I'm reaching for the handle when I hear the creak of the security screen and see Justine coming out onto the porch. How did it go, Tsar? All done? Yup, looks like it's going to be great. I'm still pissed off with you, you know that. Uh-huh, you're going to be even more pissed off. Why? She shields her eyes from the glare of the porch light, takes a few steps towards the car, and sees me in the shadows sitting in the passenger seat. I expect her to say something, but she doesn't. Instead, she simply turns around and walks back into the house. I hear the screen door slam. You need to fix that, by the way. I'll show you how. It should close slowly. I step out gingerly, smelling the night air. Sprinklers abruptly go off somewhere. This is looking more and more like a bad idea. Dude, I think you'd better take me home. Fuck that. She didn't say you couldn't come in. You'd make a good lawyer, you know that, I say. Tsar laughs. He grabs me by the shoulder and pushes me roughly towards the house. Once we're inside, he shouts, Just, you had dinner? We're starved. No answer. Pizza again, I'm guessing. How does that suit you? What have you got in the fridge? Ah, yes. From what little I remember of that disaster night, you can cook. Well, sort of. Better than I can, or just, for that matter. I grew up on takeaway. She won't be happy with you telling me that. Yeah, all her dark secrets, eh? I'm looking at the vegetable tray. There are a couple of edible capsicums, and some reasonably fresh tomatoes. There's a zucchini that isn't too bad. And there's some bacon in the meat tray. Say, Tsar, you guys got any pasta? Yep. He starts looking in the pantry. Here we are, he says, fishing out a box of fusilli. I check it and it looks like there'd be enough. Any honey? Now that I know we have. He grabs it from a shelf. I see the jar of Nutella next to it has a lid that barely fits due to the thickly encrusted rim. Soy sauce? At this question, Tsar buries his head in the pantry cupboard. Can't see any. I hear the clinking of jars and rustle of packets. Oh, for God's sake! Justine has obviously been watching. She walks up, pushes Tsar aside, and brings out a bottle of Kikkoman, which she thrusts at me. It was right in front of his bloody eyes. The lips are pursed. You really don't know how to stay away from trouble, do you? It's been following me for some time now, I say. I figured I might as well stop running. Justine thinks about this for a moment, then sighs and shakes her head. Tsar, sweetheart, get down that bottle of plonk from the shelf for me, would you? A glass, Dan. Don't mind if I do, I say, putting the bacon on the chopping board. Not that one. We use that board for veggies. Use this one. I take it from her and catch a glimpse of Tsar grinning behind her back. Since I've already started the whole recipe thing, I thought I might as well share my version of pasta primavera. It's almost entirely of my own creation, so I can't blame Baba Vera, otherwise I'd probably call it pasta Baba Vera, or anyone else for that matter. Anyway, it's useful because it provides a fairly quick, nutritious, and I believe tasty meal using whatever vegetables you have on hand. Of course, I've based this one on what Justine and Tsar had in their kitchen. The herbs they had were dried, but you should really get fresh ones. The difference is huge. If I've gotten anything wrong in this transcription, it's likely the amounts of soy and honey or syrup. I tend to go by feel rather than the exact quantities, which I've just guessed here. Let's just say you have to get the right amount of sweetness balanced by the salt. When you do, it's heavenly, particularly when you let the sauce reduce long enough to lock in all those rich flavors. And don't worry about the zucchini and tomato disintegrating. They're there to absorb the flavors and create the sauce base. Anyway, here it is. Recipe pasta primavera. Ingredients: serves 4 to 6 Roma tomatoes peeled, see below, and diced. 150 grams of lean bacon, omit for vegetarian. 2 peppers, red and yellow. Julienne. 1 zucchini, diced. 1 large carrot, julienne. 4 to 5 tablespoons of soy sauce. 3 to 4 tablespoons of honey or golden syrup. Pasta. I tend to use dry fusilli, usually spelt, because this is meant to be a quick and easy meal. Peeling the tomatoes. Use a knife to score an X in the bottom of each tomato and boil for 25 to 30 seconds or until the X widens. Take off the boil and place it in iced water for 30 seconds and then peel away the skin. Other oil, I use grapeseed, fresh basil and rosemary, maybe oregano, marjoram and thyme, or any combination of these herbs. Ground pepper, salt, optional. Preparation. Brown the bacon in oil at a moderate temperature, then remove from pan. Place the peppers and carrot in the pan and fry until the peppers and carrot have started to caramelize. Add the tomatoes, zucchini, bacon, soy sauce, honey, basil, rosemary, and ground pepper. I find the soy sauce and bacon is usually salty enough, but you can always add some if you find it requires more seasoning. Cover the pan and leave to simmer for 45 minutes or until sufficiently reduced to the desired sauce texture. The covering is necessary to braise the mix so that no additional water is required. 9:58 p.m. Justine and I are at opposite ends of the dining table. Tsar is dutifully stacking plates in the dishwasher. He has insisted that I stay put. Tsar, honey, have you taken your Avanza yet? Yeah, about 5 minutes ago. Then go, mate. We'll handle the rest. They can't be bothered guiding you to the toilet and undressing you for bed. I'm far too old for that sort of thing. Yes, Mum. Tsar is grinning. I can see he's starting to look tired. When Tsar has left the room, Justine says, He calls me Mum to annoy me. Does you remember your parents at all? He says he does, but it's probably just a matter of flashes here and there. We remember stuff because we reinforce memories with later ones, revise them actually. Since Tsar doesn't have any context for whatever little snapshots remain, I suspect the memories he has are probably ones I've implanted. Of course, these are superimposed in the afterglow of old photo album pictures. He used to love going through them when he was little. Is this your family home? Nah, we didn't have a family home. My parents were renting, Academics get paid peanuts. I suppose they were working up to buying a house at around the same time they took that drive to Sydney. She pauses and takes a sip of her wine. I see her eyes go out of focus for a moment as she says with a smile, "I had this old crappy 1981 Subaru station wagon with rust punching a hole right through the back door. Smelled of petrol every time we drove." She puts her glass down and laughs. "I remember it used to embarrass me when Dad dropped me off at school. Melbourne Girls' Grammar, not the sort of place to have a daggy dad with a daggy car." "How could they afford the school fees?" "They couldn't. I won a scholarship." "Oh. I know what you're fishing for, the dreaded past life. It's all true if you really want to know. Go ahead, ask me anything. I'll give you the gory details." She's pretending not to care, but the whites of her fingertips betray her as she grips the stem of her wineglass. "I wasn't fishing, and I don't need to ask anything." "Ah, so you'd rather judge me from ignorance, then, without due process. What kind of lawyer are you exactly?" "I'm not judging." "Everyone judges." "I don't." I walk over and pull up the chair next to Justine. Then I take her long, slender hands in mine. "I won't. If you want to tell me something, go ahead. But as far as I'm concerned, we all have our own hamster wheels. Nothing gives me the right or even the inclination to point a finger at someone else's, never mind yours. So you see, I don't give a hamster's ass what you did once upon a time to make ends meet." "What do you care about then?" "Only what's here, right now." This time it's my turn to lean in to give her a kiss. She kisses me back. The nagging side of my conscience is telling me I probably shouldn't be doing this, but the impetuous side is closing the blinds.